Please welcome to the stage Grafana Labs Co-founders Raj and Torkel.
Hello, everyone. My name's Raj, and I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO at Grafana Labs.
My name is Torkel Odegaard, and I'm also a co-founder, and I started the open source project in 2014.
Amazing. It's great to be here in Seattle. This is our biggest and hopefully bestest GrafanaCON yet, our 10th GrafanaCON. It's hard to believe that we've been doing this, and the open source project has existed now for over a decade. Who here has been to a previous GrafanaCON anywhere in the world? That's pretty cool. Hard to see in the dark, but that seems to be like quite a few hands. So really, it's a pleasure to welcome everyone here. We've got almost 600 people and a few thousands on the live stream. We've got, I think, a heck of a keynote, lots of interesting announcements. And let's get started. I'll find my clicker, which I should have picked up earlier. There we go. All right. So like I said, welcome. I wanted to get started by having a quick conversation with my co-founder, Torkel, since it's been over a decade. And I guess the question, Torkel, really simply is, what keeps you excited about Grafana, now that we've been doing this for more than 10 years?
Yeah, it's been a few years. In fact, I've been working on Grafana for more than 11 years now, which is kind of crazy. And to be honest, I keep thinking sort of one more year, then Grafana is going to be done, I'm going to be done, it's going to be perfect. And then I find sort of 1 year passes, and there's still so much left to do. I still find there's so many ways Grafana could be better, look better, be easier, do more. And then there's the fact that sort of working on Grafana has been and continues to be super rewarding, especially at events like GrafanaCON, where I get to meet and talk to users and see what the community has been up to. A community that kind of keeps on expanding and finding new ways of using Grafana. But what also keeps me super excited is the fun and impactful projects and teams with incredible engineers I get to work with every day. I can't wait to show what we've been working on and what's coming in Grafana 12 and beyond. We have some super cool demos to show you today of a new Git integration that is in the works, some new as code workflows, new dynamic dashboard features, a new AI feature, and much more. So that's kind of what keeps me excited after all these years. What about you? You've been at this for a while now. What keeps you excited these days?
Well, I mean, first of all, I have to say it's great having a team and a co-founder that's so engaged and continues to be so engaged. I mean, I think, Torkel, it's pretty amazing that someone like you 10 years in is still so into Grafana. I mean, I'm going to embarrass you a little bit, but you are still the number two, like at the moment, still the #1 contributor from a code perspective to Grafana, if I'm not mistaken, right? So thank you very much.
I had a few years head start.
Yeah, obviously the team's a lot larger too, and I guess you get to work on what you want to work, which helps too, right? Yeah. So no, that's really cool. Well, what I'm really excited about, I mean, you kind of started to touch on it, is we've built not just this incredible open source project Grafana, but we've really started to build this wider ecosystem in open source at Grafana Labs, right? And when we first started the company, I think we had this vision that open source was going to radically change the observability space. And it's just really cool to see how we as a company and as a team have kind of had a big hand in that transformation over the last decade, right? Not just with our own projects like Grafana and Loki and Mimir, but also participating in other parts of the open source ecosystem like Prometheus and OTel, right? So it's really satisfying for me to kind of sit back and, realize that we've become like a force in open source observability, but we've done it as part of this wider community and wider ecosystem, right? And we really believe and continue to believe that open source is going to win, and it's ultimately the best way to develop software. So I'm really proud that the team gets to work on open source software every day. And obviously we have our commercial software too, but we're primarily doing a lot of work out in the open. And you can kind of see some of these stats here. We've become a top 50 ranking organization in GitHub across all our projects. And speaking of ecosystem, I'm also really proud and enamored and excited about the growth that we're seeing in our Grafana Champions program, almost a 3x growth. And these are sort of community members who are really passionate not just about Grafana, but across the wider open source projects that we develop and the wider ecosystem. They've become trusted voices in the community, providing feedback, supporting other users, and really helping the wider user base, whether you're a new user or an advanced user. So really wanted to thank all the Grafana champions. You can see their names here on this slide and this slide, and they really help pull that community together, and I think that's a sign of a really healthy ecosystem. So thank you to all our Grafana champions, too. Thanks. All right, so every year we have a tradition, and this year is no different, where we take a look at some of our favorite dashboards from the last year that we've seen in the wild. And the cool thing about Grafana is you can do anything with it, right? You can visualize any data from so many different data sources for all sorts of use cases. And so here's our pick of some of our favorites, most interesting, most strange, most inspiring, most bewildering dashboards from the last year.
So we've seen Grafana used at Wimbledon, in Major League Baseball games. We saw it in the Tour de France and in F1 races. And this last year, we're adding 2 new sporting events. We spotted Grafana in the command center for the Sail GP yacht race. It's an international sailing competition featuring high-performance catamarans in races that take place around the world.
And speaking of sports, if for all the college hoops fans out there, that's basketball, in case you didn't know. One of our Grafanistas built a dashboard for March Madness. And this included live bracket, live stats during the games. I'm not a huge basketball fan, I'll be honest, so this stuff's pretty meaningless to me, but the dashboard looks really cool. If you want to check it out, though, there's a QR code here. And we actually have this live on Grafana Play. And again, one of our own Grafanistas developed this, and feel free to play around with it. Pretty cool, and using a variety of visualizations.
So moving on from sports, we spotted Grafana in a documentary about monitoring volcanoes in Italy. So I think of it as a volcano observability, not a use case I imagined for Grafana when I started it out. But anyway, in the Vesuvius Observatory in Naples, they are monitoring Vesuvius as well as other volcanoes in the region 24/7. And Grafana was being used to kind of help visualize some of the sensor data coming from their seismic sensor network, which is pretty cool.
And so this one's from Microsoft. Now, Microsoft's been a great partner for Grafana and Grafana Labs. We've worked together to launch the Azure Managed Grafana service. They're working with to use Grafana as the de facto visualization for Azure Monitor. And they've really been a friend of Grafana and Grafana Labs. But we recently found that they were using Grafana for something pretty far out there. So this is all about quantum computing, right? So depending on your perspective, this could either be the great hope or the great hype of our lifetimes. It could maybe enable world-changing abilities, or it could destroy Bitcoin and cryptography, or both. But the Microsoft team has been working on this new processor called Majorna, and it's designed from an entirely new material, and it has the potential to scale to millions of qubits on a single chip. And so kind of enamored that Microsoft is using Grafana to support the development of this new processor. This isn't anything you can buy or is coming to the market soon. So don't get too excited yet, and keep your Bitcoin for now, maybe. All right.
So next up, we have one of the most beautiful dashboards I've ever seen. It was created by Arpan Ghosh, who wrote a Python script to fetch Garmin kind of health and activity data, which it then saves into an InfluxDB database. He then built this dashboard to kind of monitor and track long-term health and activity trends.
So from the activity of your health to the activity of the surrounding airplanes in your area, a Redditor recently developed a Grafana dashboard that combined weather information with ADS-B information. So ADS-B is the signal that every airplane that's flying in the United States has to emit by law. I believe this law changed about 5 years ago. This is the same signals that people have been using to track Taylor Swift's planes and Elon Musk's planes, and I'm sure you've seen that all in the news. But this Grafana user is using ADS-B. He's actually got a ADS-B receiver outside his window, and he can track with confidence all the airplanes in his area and correlate that with the weather. So pretty cool.
So we have seen Grafana used a lot by the space industry. We have seen it used by SpaceX, by NASA, and at GrafanaCON last year, we heard and saw how the Japanese space agency used Grafana to monitor their lunar lander as it kind of was journeying across to the moon and to the lunar surface. And this year, we've seen a satellite startup company based in Bangalore, India, use Grafana in their command center in a launch in January. We also saw a Hungarian company called Puli use Grafana to monitor their Athena lunar probe as it was kind of descending and touching down near the moon's southern pole. This was part of the Intuitive Machines launch. And finally, Grafana dashboards were used to monitor the landing and 2-week operations on the lunar surface for Firefly Aerospace Blue Ghost Mission 1, the first fully successful commercial lunar landing. And we have Jesus Charles, the Blue Ghost Mission Flight Director, speaking at GrafanaCON later today.
That's super cool. I'm always a fan of seeing Grafana in space, Torkel. It seems like we've got that niche kind of well cut off. Maybe there'll have to be a Grafana Galactic edition one of these days. But no, we know what everyone's here to see during the keynote, obviously the Grafana 12 release. I did just want to hat tip to some of the exciting things we're going to be hitting everyone with during this keynote. We're going to be talking about observability as code, some of the investments in OpenTelemetry. We've also got some paradigm-shifting UI changes and experience changes with Drilldown that we're excited to talk about. And of course, no conference could be complete in 2025 without some serious noise and some really exciting stuff in AI. So that's something we're really excited to share soon. So stay tuned, strap in, and thank you so much for joining us at GrafanaCON 2025. See you soon. And I meant to introduce our Global Director of Engineering for Grafana, David Kalschmidt, and he's going to tell you.
All right, thank you. All right, happy to be here. Right, let's talk about Grafana 12. It's available to download at grafana.com, but if you've been on Grafana Cloud already, you might have had access to some of those features already over the year. But Grafana 12 also is the sum of the work that we really put into Grafana. And we've got really some exciting stuff today. But I'm only going to cover really a handful of those features, but there's going to be a full deep dive tomorrow at 9 a.m. So let's get started. UI performance. Grafana 12 got a major speed up. So I run the Grafana team now, but back when they still let me contribute code, I wrote the first edition of the logs panel, and I'm happy to report that the team now has thrown this out, and they've rebuilt this from the ground up, and it's super fast. They did the same with the table panel, and it's now silky smooth with scrolling as well. What's more important than speed? Themes. So we have, for Grafana 12, we're shipping 5 new experimental themes. And they are not just for looks. We have been investing into making the UI more accessible. And so among those 5 themes is an additional light theme and a high contrast dark theme. And so my favorite is Tron, I think that's showing right now, which is a new sci-fi theme. All right, next up, data sources. So Grafana's superpower really is to bring together data from various sources. And so we call this the Big Tent. But we have try to go a bit beyond time series and logs. So these new data sources help you also get better understanding of your infrastructure directly via data sources like Drone, Vercel, or Netlify. But we also want to bring you observability to your business processes with sources like Zendesk. And ultimately, we want you to be able to ask, is my infra healthy? Is my team productive? And finally, how is my business doing? So we've got all this data, right? So let's talk about dashboards. Dashboards really is our bread and butter. And we've also seen some amazing dashboards earlier today. But we've noticed over time that the dashboard's just getting more and more complex. And so I don't know about you, but I've never seen a dashboard become simpler over time. People just keep adding things, right? So Grafana 12, we have been working on a set of features that hopefully fundamentally change the way that you build dashboards. So the first one is AutoGrid. And so AutoGrid lines up your panels instantly to a clean and responsive layout. You can specify how many panels you want in a row, how tall the panels should be, and Grafana takes care of the rest. And so this is fully responsive, so you can resize your browser window, and Grafana knows what to do. Conditional rendering also got an upgrade. The show and hide rules now react to template variables. And in this example, we're hiding a whole row if the database engine name equals SQLite. I think this is really powerful. This makes your dashboards not just cleaner, but also faster. So this third feature is my favorite one. It's tabs layout. Grafana 12 brings you a tab layout that helps you organize your dashboard at the top of the page. And so this new layout engine supports nesting, so you can also place tabs inside of rows, as is shown now. But remember, we're still working on this, so you might have to turn on a feature flag. But we love your feedback, and I truly believe this will change how you build dashboards. All right. Let's talk about another power feature, SQL expressions. So Grafana's dashboards already make it possible to combine data. But now we're making it easier to also transform and manipulate this data coming from those various sources. And this is what this looks like in a product. You add a query, and you select expression, and you start writing SQL to refer to data from the other queries. And imagine what this could enable, right? No more ETL pipelines, no funneling data into a central data lake. So you can simply use the language that your analysts already know, SQL. And the best thing is, this also supports alerting. And so here's one of my favorite use cases for this. This panel is titled, "For which customer is this broken?" It combines error logs from Loki, customer data from BigQuery, and when things break, makes it really easy for your support team to spot who to engage with first. So whether it's joining time series with business data or just reshaping log data, SQL expressions are making Grafana even more powerful single pane of glass. So fewer ETL pipelines, fewer data lakes. This is an absolute power feature. All right, and for this next section, I have to apologize. So who here remembers the old built-in alerting? I've definitely used it. Has this nice handle with a threshold, right? But we needed something more scalable. And we introduced Prometheus-based alerting, which was more scalable, more powerful. And then who here was frustrated that we had 2 alerting solutions then? So I definitely was. Well, fear not. We have a third one. But time has progressed, right? And we are working hard to really make this the only one. And for Grafana 12, we're also shipping a migration tool to get all these old alerting rules onto the new alerting system. And for some of our cloud customers, we've already successfully migrated tens of thousands of rules what's really cool about this thing is it allows you to see if the new rules are working before you remove the old rules. All right, last one. So it's really important, or it's really hard to overstate how important this is. You probably can't tell how excited I am because I'm German. But the story here starts in 2014, and the Grafana project was barely a couple of months old, right? So this was 10 years ago, right? Someone already started wondering, well, with these dashboards, like, how can I manage them programmatically? And yes, we added the HTTP API and provisioning, but both of these had drawbacks, and more importantly, you couldn't create dashboards programmatically because there was no schema, so you also couldn't validate them, right? And so this same person, right, Jaime, realized, however, what we came up with, it had to be somehow also recommended. There had to be an official way to do this, right? So 10 years on, Jaime, if you're watching this, we've got something for you. So we're introducing versioned APIs for all actions on dashboards. It took really a major architectural change of Grafana. And most importantly, we're publishing version schemas now. And so this allows the creation and the validation of dashboards. And these new APIs and schemas are enabling a very exciting use case that I'd like to share with you today. And for this, I'd like to welcome Ryan McKinley. All right.
Hey, I'm Ryan McKinley. I'm actually going to go back one slide because I do want to make sure that we know that this is really important. It may seem underwhelming, but we're now working with versioned, consistent APIs with schemas for dashboards. And that's huge. Any sane as-code solution will depend on that. But we're not going to talk about that. Oops, there we go. There we go. We're not going to talk about that today. What I want to show you is using Git to manage your dashboards. And I think many of us have figured out solutions for that. It's a little cumbersome. You're copying JSON from the UI, pasting it here, a whole set of tools. But let's all pray to the demo gremlins and see if we can switch over to my computer. Let's see what happens. Oh, there we go. OK, so we've got a new feature out. This is Git provisioning. It's a little early in the development process, but it's really important to show you where we're going with this. So what I have locally is just a very simple dashboard setup. A few data sources. Here's some dashboards. Great. So I want to show you moving all of those into Git. So pretty simple setup here. The most complicated thing is figuring out your access tokens. I've saved a few here, so I'm just going to play that. There we go. So this is pointing it to a new empty repository. This then reads what I have locally, where the external storage is, and I'm going to synchronize everything. I'd like to include all of the history along with that. And let's see what happens here. Great. So it went through, it read what I have. We've now written that into Git. I'm going to enable all of the features we've got here. And let's see what happens. So my Grafana instance. Let's see, if I look at the history, you can see all my effort to prepare this. We got some effort from Roberto and Dominic. So the full history, all the dashboards, is now in Git. Here we go, same dashboards here. Let's go back to this guy, localhost, there we go. So I've got a dashboard here, and let's make some changes to it. So here we go. Colors, maybe let's try spectral. It's a nice color scheme. So I'm going to save that, and now when I save it, I've got new options because it's now managed by Git. So we will save that, and what you'll see is we're viewing this. It's not actually saved in our Grafana database. I'm going to open a pull request, create pull request here. And so now we haven't saved that in Grafana. We've saved it in Git. But we have an agent running in the background that's going to show me the difference between what I've saved and what's coming soon. Because again, as we all know, we can look at the JSON, but that's really hard to tell what's happening. So from these previews, I can open up, see these dashboards directly. So now let's go back and actually get. So from our pull request, we can go ahead and merge it. Merge pull request, confirm merge. And now back in Grafana, I should have my, that classic error. Let's see, here we go. Oh, man. So we can see here, I'll try this one. This one, I will edit directly and do, let's see, let's change this one, the state timeline. We can change it to a heat map. And again, I'll save. Alternatively, we can push directly to main. So I'm going to save. And same thing. This time we wrote directly into Git. But from Git, so that was my temperature value here. I can edit this directly. So let's see, I'll change the name. And where we got the name here? Title. That's again temperature edited from GitHub. Let's commit that. We'll just go again straight to main. And coming back here, I'll reload. What? This is awesome. This is really the greatest. You're still impressed? I swear it works. The demo gremlins are, I swear. So what we have is a method that we're writing from the UI into Git back into our database. And alternatively, you can write from straight into Git, and we synchronize back into Grafana. But we all kind of know that's a little dangerous, right? So when we go through our APIs, we do validate them before we write them. But if you write to Git, there's all kinds of ways of doing that. So that's really flexible. So many of us are going to want some helper tools for that. So we have got a new tool that we're releasing. It's command line manipulation that talks to our APIs. So this is Grafana Control. And it knows about the set of versioned APIs we have and can do all the basic CRUD operations. So this guy, I'm going to do just a Grafana Control resources get dashboards and dashboard. No whammies. Always good. Always good. Oops. Get. Sorry. Poll. I think something weird with network, but so we can pull resources, edit them, and then push them back. So it's really, it's kind of based on, it's modeled after the Git commands, but it allows you to edit those while having validation that happens locally, backed by the dynamic APIs. In addition to that, there are people who want Terraform. So we've got a new Terraform provider that's reading, again, the dynamic API is registered in the API server. And we set this up, and I can do let's see, Terraform apply, auto approve, and we'll see in my Grafana instance, I should now have a new folder with multiple dashboards managed from Terraform. Again, all of these things all work at the same time, and when that doesn't work, we can also use, well, that one did work, so I'm proud there. So we'll do, let's see, you can always do curl. Gonna always fall back to curl. So in this one, we can replace a tag with a generic JSON patch command. And great, the server rejected my request. This is awesome. But you get the idea. So we're gonna switch back to the slides. And so everything I showed you is all based on dashboards. But the reality is all of the foundation is coming from these dynamically registered APIs. So currently we're doing dashboards and folders. Soon it will be all data sources, alert rules, contact points, all of the observability resources that you want to deal with. This is the power of schemas. I've been evangelizing schemas recently, but my new friend Ted has talked about semantic conventions for quite a while. So proud to welcome him. Thank you.
Hello, hello, hello. Yes, I am indeed Ted Young. I am one of the co-founders of the OpenTelemetry project, and I recently joined Grafana Labs. And I just have to say, it is so amazing to be at a place that understands open source so deeply. I've been working on observability for about 8 years, but I've been working on open source software for closer to 20 years. And one conversation that gets really tiresome of having over and over and over again is having to explain some of the fundamental value of open source and how it aligns with what everyone else is doing at the organization. So to be at a place where open source is embedded so deeply into everything everyone is doing is such a relief. It's such a supportive place, and I'm just so happy to be here. But when we're talking about supporting open source, we're not talking about any project. We're talking about one project in particular, and that's OpenTelemetry. But before I dive into the ways that we support OpenTelemetry, I'd like to take a step back and talk about why we think the project is so important. I'll give you 3 reasons. The first reason is OpenTelemetry is vendor neutral. Vendor neutral is an interesting term. It doesn't just mean open source, it also means widely adopted across the industry. And that's really important because when you're standing up observability, one of the heaviest lifts is adding all of the instrumentation to all of your applications, services, and infrastructure. That can be a lot of work. And if you have to rip and replace all of that instrumentation every single time you want to try a different observability tool, we don't think that's really acceptable. We think you should write once, run everywhere, and we believe that OpenTelemetry is the tool that provides that feature. Another thing that's pretty boring but also really important is standardizing the data coming out of your system. In OpenTelemetry, we call this semantic conventions, but what it basically means that if we're reporting an HTTP request, it's always reported the same way, whether it's coming from a Java service or a Python application or Kubernetes. HTTP should always look like HTTP. Same thing for SQL and everything else. It should be very, very regularized. And this is really, really helpful with just about any task you're doing downstream, whether you're making dashboards or using AI to find correlations across your system. Being able to predict what the data is going to look like is a really valuable feature. The third thing is something I don't think we talk about enough, and that's the way that OpenTelemetry unifies all of these different signals together. Traditionally, tracing, metrics, and logs, and now profiling, were all separate tools, and they had completely separate stacks, and they were siloed from each other. That made it hard to move across all of these different data systems. OpenTelemetry doesn't just take those different signals and stack them next to each other. It actually integrates all of that information into a single graph. And that, again, is very, very valuable when you're building observability tools, especially tools that want to integrate all of this information and synthesize a wider view of your system. Okay, so that's why we're interested in OpenTelemetry. But what are we actually doing about it? There's a number of things we've done this year that we think are really important. First and foremost, we are donating Beyla to OpenTelemetry. Beyla is a form of auto-instrumentation. Remember, earlier I was talking about what a big lift it might be at an organization to add instrumentation to all of your software. If you have a large fleet of services, that can be really onerous. So any kind of shortcut you can take there is going to be really helpful. Beyla provides auto-instrumentation for a variety of different languages, and it does it using eBPF, which means if you're using any kind of modern Linux operating system, it's readily available. We're excited to have this as part of OpenTelemetry because standard data. We'd like it to be the case where whether it's auto-instrumentation or manual instrumentation, the data looks the same. And we're also interested in unified telemetry, in particular combining eBPF with profiling. Profiling is another place where we support OpenTelemetry really heavily. It's nascent within OpenTelemetry, it's not ready yet, but we're really excited to see profiling take flight. This is a really, really valuable form of observability, but one that's traditionally been somewhat underutilized because it's been a little hard to understand how you would actually deploy this in production. So we tend to use it mostly in development. But when you attach it to the rest of the OpenTelemetry toolchain, a lot of exciting ideas become possible when it comes to running always-on profiling or spot checking your system. So we're really excited to see where this goes. Another place where we support OpenTelemetry is Prometheus. What? These are two separate tools, but they're both within the CNCF, and they're both really popular. And when we look at our users, we actually see lots of people using both of these projects together. So we would like them to work well together. We think Grafana Labs is actually uniquely positioned to make that happen. So anywhere within the OpenTelemetry project where it's possible to supply high-quality Prometheus support, we're trying to do that. One place where we're doing that is in a project we call Grafana Alloy. So Alloy is our version of the OpenTelemetry collector. So it works just like a collector, but it has a bunch of other features that we think are really valuable. One in particular is high-performance Prometheus pipelines. So the collector is a really good Swiss Army knife for converting data formats and massaging all kinds of data. But if it's Prometheus in and Prometheus out, you don't actually want to do any of those data format conversions. That's just cost, essentially, in that situation. You want high-performance pipelines. So Alloy takes both of these things, combines them together into one awesome system. Last and certainly not least, a lot of the day-to-day work in OpenTelemetry goes on in the language SDKs, the implementations in all the different languages, the clients, the instrumentation packages. That's quite a bit of effort keeping all of that up and running and maintained. And we try to push in as much as we can in as many different languages as we can and help support the project in general. So I would love to bring everyone up on stage who's committed to OpenTelemetry and thank them individually, but because I can't do that, I'd like to do this instead. This is a slide with all of my favorite people at Grafana Labs. This is everyone who's committed to the OpenTelemetry project. We value you so much on the OpenTelemetry side of the fence. We really appreciate all of the work you all have put into the project. Yeah, absolutely. Hells yeah. Okay. It's not just within the project where we support OpenTelemetry, though. It's also downstream in all of the databases and analysis tools that we provide at Grafana Labs. We want all of this tooling to be OpenTelemetry native. So when you look at the data, we want Grafana Labs to be the best place to go and do that. And that's really important because we see the future of observability as an integrated system. It's not the case that you have a logging problem, so you look at your logs, or you have a metrics problem and you look at your metrics. You have a system problem, and you're moving across all of these different signals to understand what the heck is actually going on. And we believe that an integrated solution is how you do that, and so we're building integrated tools here at Grafana Labs. And to drill down into that more deeply, I would like to invite Andrew Stuckey onto the stage.
Thanks, Ted. Hi, everyone. I'm here to give you an exciting update on the Grafana Drilldown applications. A quick reminder about what the Drilldown applications stand for. First and foremost, these are queryless, point-and-click experiences, no queries required. We tailored each experience to their database counterpart. The Drilldown Spark was lit by a hackathon last March. Last GrafanaCON in 2024, we announced metrics and logs Drilldown. And at ObsCon in September, we rolled out a preview of the Drilldown suite, which included traces and profiles Drilldown. Over the last 12 months, we've experienced a 600% growth in monthly page views. Drilldown has been a wild success. Let's briefly go back to the beginning with metrics Drilldown. Since last showing metrics Drilldown, some things have changed. I'm going to walk you through those changes by looking at a real-world example. But first, we wanted to address some feedback we heard from the community. Finding the right metric among a sea of metrics was still challenging. Let's look at a DDoS attack on an authentication microservice through the lens of metrics Drilldown. First, we have a new sidebar, which rapidly helps reduce the sea of metrics. Looking at the sidebar, we see that we can use metric name prefix filters, among other filters, to narrow down our result set. Let's select the HTTP prefix filter. With just one click, we reduce the sea of metrics from 313 to just 3. Immediately, we spot an anomaly, a spike in traffic. We are convinced this new workflow will help you wrangle the chaos in Prometheus environments with lots of metrics. Logs Drilldown provides the same Drilldown experience, but for logs. We've been hard at work improving the Logs Drilldown experience, like adding support for JSON logs, a new logs panel, and various performance improvements. Stay tuned for upcoming updates later this year. Now, let's talk a little bit about Traces Drilldown. We built Traces Drilldown to help you pinpoint where issues are occurring within large distributed systems. With that said, I'd like to officially announce the general availability of Traces Drilldown. Let's look closer at Traces Drilldown and come back to our authentication microservice. This time, a user has reported trouble logging in with multi-factor authentication. I want to show off the service structure tab, just one of the many ways in which you can break down your data. This feature aggregates spans across multiple traces, which quickly highlights recurring trends. In our case, I see something interesting, a longer running notification request, so I'll dig in. Digging further into these span details, we see that the send SMS notification request is the culprit. If we expand into the span and look at its attributes, we see that our upstream notification service is rate limiting our request. This was our issue. Finally, let's talk about profiles Drilldown. We've historically thought a lot about profiles from the perspective of cost savings, performance improvements, but we wanted profiles to be so much more. We built Profiles Drilldown to be a place for multiple use cases, including using profiles for root cause analysis. With that said, I'd also like to announce the general availability of Profiles Drilldown. Our poor old authentication service has yet another issue. Users this time are reporting a slow login after the deployment of a new version of our service. After selecting our service, let's look at the available labels here to help drill into our issue. Very conveniently, we have a version label. Selecting the version label allows us to compare performance between the different versions we've deployed. Comparing the baseline versus the new version, there are some pretty clear differences here. So let's look a little closer at the flame graph to understand more. Looking more closely at the flame graph, we see that we added a new password hashing library called Argon2. This library was causing our slowdown. Okay, I have one more thing. I'd like to announce a new Drilldown feature called Investigations. Investigations allows you to move between Drilldown app and Drilldown app and collect the signals. You can find investigations in the menu bar. To get started, add a panel from Drilldown, or click to create an investigation. From here, we'll find a panel of interest. Click the context menu and add to investigation. You can now add comments, or continue your investigation by collecting panels in other Drilldown applications. This powerful new experience brings the context from all your telemetry signals into one place. If you think this was interesting, wait until what you have to hear from Matt and Cyril. Thanks, everybody.
Good stuff. Give me the clicker.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. My name's Matt Ryer.
And my name is Cyril Tovna.
And I asked the marketing department to come up with a slide that expresses AI is everywhere. And they came up with this monstrosity. Grafana AI? I mean, that looks like an LLM generated it in an image, doesn't it? We're so worried about AI taking our jobs. They're taking an AI's job there. So, but AI is everywhere. Who uses AI in their work? Yeah, so there's a lot of people. Who uses the AI that is agentic and sort of really tightly integrated into the tools? Like Cursor, Warp, those kinds of tools, yeah. And we use these too. We noticed that this makes a big difference. Like ChatGPT, I think, was a big kind of step. And this is another one. It felt like another kind of major leap here, having the integrated experience. And favorites of ours are the Warp terminal. So in the command line, you can still type commands, but you can also write just in plain language, and it will generate commands. It will look at the response from a tool that runs, and so it can iterate. And Cursor has the same kind of thing. It goes further because it shows you a diff of changes, so you can kind of see what it's suggesting. And then you're free to accept it or not, or keep the conversation going and iterate on it. And we've noticed a big productivity boost with these kinds of tools, and we thought, what if Grafana had this capability? What would that look like? And what could you do with it? So, you know, it goes beyond just AI chat. This is when we give it access to your data, suddenly it's not just answering generally, it's specific. It's able to look at your real telemetry data and work with it and iterate with it. If it's this reactive agent thing, you get the feedback, it can run investigations. So you can have it dig in for you and poke around. And you don't have all the knowledge always. Sometimes it has more knowledge than you in certain places, and sometimes you're the one that has the knowledge. So you work together in this integrated way. And we're really excited. I can't wait to show you this. So thoughts and prayers, we're going to do a live demo. Now, I'm just kidding. I'm a demo atheist, so I'm on my own here. Let's switch to the, OK, we're here. Yeah, let's go. Cyril.
Yeah, let's go. So the assistant can be opened on the top right corner with the new icon, and it opens as a sidebar. So it's always with you, always available to help you on your observability journey. It knows about the page where you are. So we can see here that it's talking about the home page. So he knows about this, and he can use that context to give you information about the page. All right, let's ask our first question. So I'm going to ask, show me the CPU usage per pod. So the assistant is equipped with a lot of tools around Grafana, and you can use them to help you, find metrics, query metrics, and then answer the question that you ask. So right now he's doing that. He's actually looking for metrics related to CPU. He found one, and now he's going to actually do a query.
Yeah, and notice it's going to use Grafana's visualizations wherever it can. So it's not just a wall of text. It's actually going to use the Grafana's tools and all the beautiful stuff that people have already built to be part of that conversation with you. And it can navigate too. So it's just moved us to this new page. So it knows where in Grafana, like it knows how to build URLs and deep link straight into the relevant bits for you to see. So it's the fastest way ever of jumping to the right specific bit.
And I can use that if I want to start iterating on the query that I'm building right now. I don't know if you see that here, but it's giving us also a summary. So it is actually looking at the data too. So it's telling us, what is the current CPU usage of the pods, and give us a quick summary to quickly have some more information. So let's ask a second question, and this time I'm going to ask a bit more. So how many nodes are we running in this cluster, and which Kubernetes version is this? All right.
By the way, the assistant won't be this big when you have it on yours. It depends on your monitor size. This is the biggest I've ever seen it, and I'm loving it. So yeah, we have these great kind of tools that you can do. And the thing is, like with LLMs, how do you know they're not hallucinating? This is the big trouble, is like, how do we know that it's for sure telling us the truth? Well, our answer to that is that we show all the working. So you can see everything it's doing, all the tools it's making, the inputs and outputs of those tools, so that you can see where it's going. If it goes wrong, you can understand why. But actually, it just gives you trust that it's following a logical step. And it hallucinates less as well because of this.
So he gave us with the answer. So we're using Kubernetes 1.30. It's an EKS cluster. He actually went a bit beyond and gave us more information using the metrics that he pulled out. So he's telling us about the availability, the container D version we're using, like the kernel version. Very insightful information.
Yeah. Now, this isn't a pre-baked demo. This is a fresh install, and it's just answering these questions by making these different queries. We actually introduced a Postgres connection error into this instance. So maybe a product manager doesn't know what that means technically, but they might say, customers are telling me the product catalog service is not working. It's struggling. Something's gone wrong. Help me.
Yeah, and this time I'm going to select two data sources so that you can actually use both logs and metrics. The context here, those pills that you can see, and is actually suggesting me the Prometheus one, so it's kind of muted, and I can click on it, and it's gonna use that in the context. And as you know, with AI, more context is better, so you can add different type of context. You can add data sources, as you see, you can add labels, labels names, labels value. You can actually use metrics or dashboards. You can use the menu, but also use the in-chat context by using the @mention. So it's running the investigation right now, and because that's going to be a long investigation, I think in the meantime I want to show you something that is pretty interesting. All the chat are automatically titled for you, so this one is called Product Catalog Service Issue, and I can look at the past conversation, and they run in the background. So if I switch, this one's still going to be running. So I could actually use multiple investigations at the same time if there's an incident. Let's look at this one.
So this has information that's packed in, and this has a sort of general knowledge that, it's got general observability knowledge. Grafana has an advantage here because it's all open source. The LLMs kind of already have a good intuition about how to use Grafana tech and all the open source things around it in the ecosystem. But we've also added specific Grafana knowledge and prompts and things and access to docs and things so that you get really like proper Grafana knowledge baked into this as well.
Right, let's go back to investigation. We can see that it just actually moved us to something, to another page. So let's see what it's saying. It made some mistake along the way, by the way.
Yeah, so this is interesting. You can see one of the tools just failed there. When there's an error, we feed that back into the conversation. So the agent has a chance to look at what it's done, realize it's made a mistake, and correct it. So you get this kind of self-correcting thing. If you use Cursor and some of those other tools, you'll probably be used to this kind of interaction. It's not perfect, but you're there to help guide it. And the visual, seeing the graphs, it's great. Like having answers, not just a wall of text, but just these gorgeous visualizations. I think it's just icing on the cake.
Right, so we find the problem, database connection exhaustion. It's giving us like key finding, telling us about the root cause, and give us also some recommended action on how to try to mitigate this issue. And at the same time, he moved us to Drilldown metrics to show us a metrics that shows the problems. So the errors, basically failed requests here.
Yeah, so it's really helping us there. I made a Postgres dashboard last week, Cyril. So can you see if the agent can find that?
Yeah.
Because that also would be helpful in this case. So if you know what you're looking for and you've got your knowledge, you can also just ask specifically and more pinpointed questions.
Yeah, and again, he's going to use like tools that he has from Grafana to search dashboard and try to come up with an answer. So there's 2 of them, and he's suggesting us to go to the new one. So I'm going to say yes.
I was promised no French. Yes, so but that's cool, right? If there's any ambiguity, it comes back to you to ask. So it is conversation.
Right, nice dashboard, Matt, but sounds like there's one panel that is not working.
What? Oh, it's embarrassing. Can you get it to fix it?
Yeah, I'm going to ask the assistant.
Fix the database size panel.
I'm actually also going to ask to change all the colors of the panel at the same time, just to showcase how we can bulk update a panel.
Oh, yeah. And you don't have to be 100% perfect in what you type. It's completely like, it's the LLM. It's already kind of very flexible. It knows what you mean.
So again, it's going to use the tool, so he's reading the panel. I'm a bit worried that he's already trying to validate queries because he should be trying to look at, actually, he managed to fix it.
That's actually the fastest it's done that, yeah.
That's fast.
So it read the panel, it figured out what the mistake was, it's fixed it. It also can just make bulk edits like this. I think this is going to be a real sort of superpower for anyone working with dashboards, or any of the Grafana tech. Really exciting.
What? That's the demo?
That's the demo. Back to the slides. Thank you.
Oh, there's another part of the demo. Maybe we can.
Pardon?
We could show the dashboard creation.
Show the dashboard what?
Dashboard creation.
Oh yeah, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay, back to the demo. It's going so well.
It's going so well.
All right, so we can edit. We can edit, we can fix, we can do bulk things, but can we create dashboards out of thin air? Yes, it's correct. Yeah, spoiler alert. Well, let's see. To be honest, this demo, every time we do it, is different.
Yeah.
So we are sort of scared. Create a dashboard for monitoring Kafka. So it knows what Kafka is, right? It's got the general knowledge. You don't have to tell it everything. And it's also going to look at best practices. What makes sense to show on a dashboard with 5 panels?
So it's doing the same. This time it's actually querying for multiple type of metric. So it's looking for GVM metrics, it's looking for Kafka metric, general metrics. So it did 3 calls to find those metrics.
Can you open one of these tools so we can look at the inputs, outputs in there?
Yep. So he just created the dashboard. So that's the response from the tool. So he looked at Kafka topic, all the Kafka topic metric patterns, and then the Kafka server pattern.
Yeah. Get your hands ready, because if this works, we have to raise the roof here. It's created a dashboard.
Yeah. You also can give feedback at the bottom.
What?
Thank you.
Look at the detail in this. The units it's got there. It's got titles. Everything's labeled nicely.
Description.
Yeah, it's got a description. It looks nice. It chooses the right visualization. It tries to. If you're not happy with any of this, you just keep chatting. You just say, I don't know. Can you make them all purple, please? Maybe we should just turn that on by default, actually. Just make it purple. It's cool, isn't it?
This time, that's it.
And that is the end of the demo now. Thank you. So there you have it. Grafana Assistant lets you ask questions, high-level questions, Our CTO uses it. Our CEO uses it to learn about the information about what we're doing, the stack, based on the telemetry data. If you know specifics, you're a senior SRE, you can be very specific. You know, context is everything. So the more you provide, the better the results. It can take you places around Grafana. It knows how to deep link into all the different interesting bits. So it can show you things instead of just telling you. It can do investigations. It's reactive. It's this agentic thing that will dig in, and maybe it does a query, finds a spike, and drills into that. Or maybe there's no spike, and it moves on to something else. And of course, you can make changes, editing dashboards, fixing them, and creating new ones. And we're so excited about this project. Like, we've got so many ideas of more things we can do. Wasn't there an incident yesterday?
Yeah, the Mime team had an incident, and one of the engineers was using the assistant, and he was able to find the root cause. It was amazing.
Yeah, so we're using it internally, and we are just finding that this is actually really changing things. And so we can't wait for you to get your hands on it as well. And that's it. So I'm now going to hand over to the people who make this conference possible. So please welcome Carl, Michaela, and Richie. Cheers. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carl Bergqvist. I'm a senior principal engineer.
I'm Michaela Meyer, a director of engineering.
And I'm Richie, part of the Office of the CTO. So why are we here? What do co-chairs do?
So we are responsible for selecting the content at this conference.
We're also responsible for polishing the content.
And we're responsible for the whole experience for the community around all the content.
So to recap what we've seen today, we released Grafana 12 with a lot of great improvements. Just look at this big screen. There's improvements all over it, from new dashboard capabilities to version APIs and schemas. Tomorrow morning, we'll have a deep dive covering some of these Grafana 12 features. If you want to sign up for the private preview of Git Sync and Grafana CLI, you can scan this code, and we'll reach out when it's ready. As you just saw, it's still early days, but we really wanted to show because we're so excited about this. And there's no doubt that the observability as code solution we're building at Grafana will change how we build, iterate, and collaborate on dashboards in the future, and any other resource in Grafana. As you just saw in the presentation from Matt and Cyril, we're also working on the Grafana Assistant. And you can scan this code if you want to join the private preview. You can also swing by to ask the expert booth later. This is something the team started working on just a few weeks ago, and we're really impressed with the real value it's been able to deliver.